So after 7 years of RV life and visiting all lower 48 states in our RV, we're kind of asking ourselves, where do we go next? But I can tell you right now, there are some places we will never, ever travel with our RV. Now, these are places where you can logistically take an RV. So I'm not talking about like driving across the ocean to Hawaii.
It's science.
We will never make these treks, even though many other RVers have. And let me just tell you, part of the reason why is because of what some of these other RVers that have done these treks have said after they've come back. And we personally don't need the stress of traveling in our RV to these locations, and chances are you probably don't either. So in this video, we're going to share where these places are and moreover, why we feel it's just not either safe or smart to RV to these destinations. So now the number 2 place we will never take our RV, and in fact, you would be hard pressed to find us traveling there at all, is Mexico. Now, I'm gonna give you 7 really good reasons why we will never, ever do the Mexico or Baja thing with our RV. And yes, I know, probably controversial. And so if you have done this, you can feel free to leave a comment below with your thoughts or moreover your experience. But reason numero uno, see what I did there? Ha ha ha. We will not ever take our RV into Mexico. Our safety and security concerns. Now, let me just share a little personal story. We have some friends here in the US that came to the US from Mexico. And one of our friends, which is actually an engineer for a really well-known aerospace company. In fact, if I told you this company name, you would immediately know. But he shared with us that our cat engine in our RV is a highly valued commodity in Mexico. So much so that he actually warned us against taking our RV into Mexico because theft would be a large concern. So think about this too. If you're a full-timer, your entire life is in your RV. So most of us have our whole entire life maybe in a sticks and bricks home, but for a full-time RVer, this can definitely make you a target for theft because everybody knows if you're full-time, your whole life is in that RV, which is now your house. And I'm not even gonna get into the fact that law enforcement in Mexico can be corrupt in a lot of places and just questionable in general. Now, the second reason is challenges of road conditions and driving challenges. Now, many roads in Mexico, especially in rural or remote areas, can be poorly maintained, narrow, lack proper signage, not exactly our idea of a stress-free trip in a large RV. You got things like potholes, speed bumps, unpaved roads, let alone all of that, and then navigating unfamiliar traffic laws and local driving habits. I mean, the driving habits of most people in the US can be questionable.
Florida is the #1 state for the worst drivers, and we are 2-time champions. Not a good thing.
But let's talk about a whole nother country, shall we? Now, here's the other reason is the limited availability of RV services. So finding RV-specific services such as a repair shop if you break down, parts availability, camping supplies. This can be difficult outside of most of your major tourist areas. And there are other risks too. If you have a breakdown or a need for maintenance, you could face some major delays and difficulties in finding the necessary services and parts. Now, another reason is the health and safety considerations. Access to clean drinking water and reliable medical facilities in Mexico can be pretty limited, and the risk of encountering health-borne illnesses from water and things like that, definitely a challenge. And if you have a medical emergency, it could be challenging to find immediate or adequate care. Now, another reason why you won't find us going to Mexico with no RV is also you've got, a language barrier. And while a lot of people in Mexico speak English, especially in tourist areas, language barriers in general can just pose more difficulty in more remote type of regions. The other thing is then those communication issues can lead to misunderstandings, especially in an emergency, okay? I'm not talking about ordering your food, but if there's an emergency, this is when you really cannot afford for there to be a language barrier or misunderstanding when it comes to not knowing the local language. Another reason, insurance and legal requirements. Now, US auto insurance policies typically don't cover you in Mexico, which means that you've got to look at some sort of additional Mexican auto insurance. And I, for one, just don't want to have to navigate those headaches. I mean, there's a lot of other places I can visit that have my insurance in place without having to look at additional insurance for the RV. So navigating all of that, just no thank you. And then I cannot tell you the horror stories. Just search YouTube on customs and border crossings, and the challenge of crossing the border with an RV can not only be time consuming and involve extensive paperwork, but it can just be really, really stressful. So with delays, inspections, issues bringing certain items and or pets, if you travel with pets like we do, that's a whole nother issue. Suffice it to say, you are not going to find us in Mexico, even though there's many beautiful destinations and places that you can take an RV. We just don't want to take that risk of finding a reliable place, a suitable place to park our RV, access to clean drinking water, dump stations, all of that just doesn't really sound like an idea of fun for us. So now before I share about the next place, and really the #1 place on our list, we will never travel with our RV, I do want to take a quick minute to talk about a resource that I do use for finding some campgrounds where we actually do want to go in our RV, and that is a website called RV, which is the sponsor of this video. Now, I love using RV as a time saver when looking for campground options like state and national park campgrounds, but one of the ways I use RV is to find and book near impossible campsite reservations at some of the most popular campgrounds in America. In fact, check out this video right up here from where I was able to get a last-minute reservation at a beautiful state park in Florida for the entire week using RV. And this is because dozens of campground cancellations actually happen on a daily basis. I mean, think about it. If you've been an RVer for any length of time now, you've probably had to cancel a reservation or two over the years yourself. So I use RV to set up a sold out scan, and as soon as there's a cancellation, RV doesn't just notify me of the cancellation, but they actually book it for me. Now, I've tried several of the scan services in the past where you get an alert when there's an opening, but every time I would get an alert, as luck would have it, I was not in a place where I could follow through to make that reservation quickly. And by the time I did, of course, it was gone. So with RV, you can set up sold out scans for reservations for not just this year and those last minute trips, but for next year too. Because really, it's never too early to start planning those bucket list trips. And RV is our go-to booking service when we're planning those trips, even ones for next year. Our followers and viewers have continued to share their experiences about how they RV'd their campsites in various situations. And that's part of the reason we continue to share about RV and partner with RV, is because it works for us, it's working for you guys, and we love sharing about resources that work for the RV community in general. We love that RV is always looking and booking for us nonstop, 24/7, 365. Now, you can try RV for free for 14 days at gratefulglamper.com/RV. And if you decide you want to get started using RV to make those reservations, we've partnered with them for an exclusive 10% discount off membership options, and there's a lot of options available. The details are in the description below, or you can visit gratefulglamper.com/RV to learn more. And a huge thanks to RV for sponsoring this video and their continued support of our channel. Now, the #1 place we are not going to take our RV ever is the state of Alaska. Now, before you go and tell us about how so many other RVers have traveled to Alaska and how maybe this content creator did or that content creator did, that's all well and fine, but let me just tell you what we've heard and learned from other RVers, personal friends who have made this trek, and why we're not gonna do it after learning from them. Now, just a side note, that's kind of what this channel is all about, really, is that we share what we've learned, and then you and the RV community share with others in the comments about what you've learned, so we can all learn from each other's mistakes and not repeat the same mistakes of others. I will tell you quickly, we actually will be going to Alaska, and I will share more about how in just a few minutes. But first, it won't be in this RV. Now, several reasons why, but one of the reasons is the long distance and wear and tear on the RV. Now, did you know it's 2,260 miles from Seattle, Washington to Anchorage, Alaska? And according to Google Maps, it's over 40 hours in driving. Now, if you've traveled in an RV, you know that 40 Google hours of driving is really more like 50 hours of drive time when it comes to driving or towing in an RV. And that's just from Seattle to Anchorage. And then, of course, you got to think about that same distance coming back. And here's the thing. The roads to Alaska through Canada are not exactly urban, meaning that there's a lot of planning involved with making sure that you stop for fuel when it's available. And in the event of a breakdown, which can really potentially strand you. And that is why many people who do choose to make this trek travel in a caravan. So there's somebody that can go for help, because here is something else to consider on the drive there. Very limited, if any, cell service if you do need to call for help. And by the way, more on cell service and connectivity in Alaska in just a few minutes as well. Now, another reason we're not going to RV in Alaska ever are the road conditions. Now, many roads in Alaska, especially the remote ones, can be very rough, unpaved, poorly maintained, which means things like potholes, gravel roads, frost heaves. These can really take a toll on RV suspension, tires, and undercarriage. And don't even get us started on RV quality to begin with, let alone the fact that then RVs in general are not really built to go off-road unless you have a very specific type of overlanding style RV or camper van. And in fact, we personally know many of our RV friends who bought an entirely different, smaller RV just to make that Alaska trek because they didn't want to tear up the rig that they have. But personally, my idea of fun isn't necessarily downsizing my RV just to take it to Alaska. But you know, that's just me. So you'll have to let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Now, another reason is the limited services and amenities. Remote areas often lack essential services such as RV repair shops. Think about it. If the roads are full of potholes, chances are you could need a repair while you're there. Fuel stations and grocery stores. If your RV breaks down or you run out of supplies, finding assistance and replacements can be difficult at best and then time consuming. In case you haven't figured out the central theme of this year, stressful. I don't know about you, but we're really not the type of RVers that are doing this because we want some sort of challenge or to prove some sort of point to ourselves that, you know, we can survive even in the harshest of conditions. I mean,
we are the glampers, right?
Which should tell you something right there. I'm not about roughing it in the wild. But I do love seeing and exploring new places, all from the comfort of my home, which is this RV for a good portion of the year. So RV life in general, it's stressful enough without the additional challenges that driving to and from Alaska would bring. And speaking of challenges, Alaska's weather can be very unpredictable and harsh with potential for snow, ice, heavy rain, even in the summer. And have I mentioned that we prefer sun and warmth, by the way? And adverse weather can make driving dangerous, and it is flat out no fun trying to safely drive or tow an RV in extreme conditions with the increased risk of accidents. I mean, we've seen where people have slid off the road in bad weather, and that is enough for us to not want to try to drive our RV on potential snowy roads. Now, another reason we will not be taking our RV to Alaska is those challenges of connectivity that I told you we'd share more about. Now, think about this. Cell service and internet service are often limited or even non-existent in many parts of Alaska. Just look at a cell coverage map. And the lack of connectivity can make it difficult to access things like maps or emergency services or just stay in touch with family or friends. And that can lead to potential safety concerns. And for us, again, we are planning a trip to Alaska, but it's not going to be in our RV. Now, here's where I'm going to give you the quick inside secret, okay? Now, don't tell anyone else about this because technically I'm not supposed to spill the beans on this yet.
No kidding.
Because there's a lot of planning happening in the background right now, okay? And the details are still being hammered out, but you're going to have an opportunity to come to Alaska with us next summer. And we want as many of you that can come to come. But because we're not quite ready to put all the details out there yet, let me just say it's super important that you are getting our weekly emails because this will be the main way for you to be in the know. And we'll have some really special opportunities for those of you who are our insiders for this Alaska trip, but I can't say anything else yet, okay? Which actually brings me to the final reason that when we travel to Alaska, it will not be in our RV. And that is there's a lot of logistical complications of RVing or just even traveling to Alaska. Planning such a long trip requires a lot of preparation, route planning, in some cases securing necessary permits, and ensuring your RV is in optimal condition. There are major risks involved with any oversight and preparation, which can lead to significant issues during the trip, such as costly breakdowns or just putting yourself in harm's way. So all of that said, those are two places that are off our list. So where do you think we should go next? Let us know in the comments. And then take a look at this video right up here about some things that you should know and do before you hit the road to avoid trouble when you're traveling in your RV.